Welcome everyone to join Survey123 REST API demo tutor. My name is Kelvin Yong, developer of Survey123. We also have Yue Zhao, Zhen Liu, my coworkers in this demo tutor. We are happy to introduce what REST API Survey123 provides and how you can use with the REST API. Here's today's agenda. We'll briefly talk about the different type of Survey123 APIs, and mainly focus on the REST API for survey management and survey generating report. Then we'll give 2 demos in Python script. It will step-by-step show you how you can use the REST API for survey management and generating report. Finally, we summarize the features and limitations when you use Survey123 REST API. First, let's take a look at the different type of Survey123 APIs you can use. Survey123 has different APIs for developers to use for different scenarios and programming languages, including JS API, REST API, and Python API. You can use the JS API to embed a survey into your web app and customize its style. You can even interact with the embedded survey by listening events, including when a form loaded, when a form submitted, or when a question value changed. For Survey123 REST API, we provide HTTP endpoint for developer to manage a survey, such as create, share, or delete a survey, and also to generate a report. You will see more details about the REST API in the following slides. For the Python API, we have a survey module in ArcGIS API for Python. Survey module has 2 classes, Survey Manager and Survey. Survey Manager will help you to create a survey instance. You can use a survey instance to generate reports. Although we didn't provide Survey Manager function in Survey instance, but you can always send a request to REST API to manage the survey. You can find more details about the Survey123 API on developers.com/survey123 website. It will show you API reference and more example to understand how to use Survey123 API. Let's take a deep look to understand how to manage survey by Survey123 REST API. For survey management, here are REST API endpoints on survey123beta.arcgis.com/API. Although these endpoints are currently on Survey123 beta website, it will be moved to production website very soon once we finalize. But you can still use these REST API endpoints on beta websites to search a survey, create a survey, or get a survey's form, and other options. You can use a search endpoint to search surveys in ArcGIS Online or in your ArcGIS Enterprise. By setting search string parameter, you can search survey by keywords or by tags. And you can also set search survey type parameter to search the survey you owned, the survey you have been shared, or the survey you are the co-author. Create endpoint. This endpoint will help you to create a survey, including create a folder, an item on ArcGIS Online or in your enterprise, create a source field service, and view field service for field worker, and also add a relationship among item, source field service, and view field service. You can just set title and text. That's it. The endpoint will help you to create a survey. Additionally, if you already have a form JSON, you can also pass form JSON into the form parameter. The endpoint will help you to create exactly the same survey for you. Share endpoint. You can decide to share a survey to field worker to submit a survey, to stakeholder to check the result, or the co-author to design the survey. When calling the share endpoint, it will share the form item, view field service, maybe field worker view or stakeholder view field service, depending on whom you want to share with, and related items, including report template and web maps. For example, If you want the survey can be submitted publicly, but only a group of users can check the results, you can have two requests calling the share endpoint. One is to share the survey public on field worker sharing type, and the other request is to share the survey to a group on a stakeholder sharing type. Different sharing type will decide which view feature service can be shared. You can call delete endpoint to delete a survey. Right now it supports post and delete method. When you call delete a survey, it will delete the phone item, source feature service, and view feature service, and also the related items if you owned, like report template and web map. And also we will delete the folder if the folder is empty, but if it's something in the folder, we will rename it. Encode URL parameters endpoint. As you may already know, you can use a URL parameter to pre-populate question in the survey. For example, here is a URL you want to share someone to submit a survey. You can pre-populate email question with survey123@esri.com and pre-populate employee ID question with 1234 by URL parameters. Since the URL parameters are in clear text, a smart user could look at the web browser navigation bar, figure out that a question is being pre-populated, and manipulate the URL parameters to change the value. So you can use encode URL parameter endpoints to encode the sensitive information. Next, my coworker Zhen will give us a demo to show you how to use Survey123 Management REST API in Python script. Zhen, it's your time.
Thanks, Kelvin. I will quickly demonstrate how can you utilize the Survey123 Management REST API to search surveys, get survey form JSON, create new survey, share published survey, and delete survey. First, I will connect to my ArcGIS Online account and set some common parameters that will be reused later, including the API base URL, which is pointing to the Survey123 beta website, and the portal URL. You can set the portal URL to your public-facing enterprise portal if needed. Next, I will use the search endpoint to search for specific surveys. In the parameters, I will use vehicle inspection as the search string and only search published surveys owned by myself. The result contains two surveys, and I will use the first one as the template for creating a new survey later. And in here, I will record the form item for the search result. Next, I will retrieve the survey's form JSON using the form endpoint. The response is the complete JSON file used when publishing the survey, including all question details and other information like theme and webhook settings, etc. Now I can use the retrieved JSON file to create a new survey using the create endpoint. In the parameters, I have specified the title and text for the new survey, and most importantly, the form JSON file I retrieved earlier. If you omit the form parameter, you can create a blank new survey. After the survey is created, I can check it using the Survey123 web designer. In the web designer, I can keep add, edit, or delete question as needed. For example, I can add a new text question here for checking the vehicle inspection number and publish the survey. Please note that we are also planning to release the Publish REST API endpoint to complete the whole survey authoring experience by API. After the survey is published, I can use the Share endpoint to change the sharing level of the survey. In here, I have shared the field worker view of the survey to everyone, which makes the survey public for anonymous users to submit. Now, if I open the survey in the web app in an incognito window, I don't need to log in to any account to submit a new record of the survey, as it has been shared to the public. Finally, I will use the delete endpoint to delete the survey I just created. After the deletion is succeeded, if I refresh the web page, it will show an error. Okay, now back to you, Kelvin and Yue.
Thanks, Jen's demo. You may be wondering that why there's no publish endpoint to publish a survey after created. Yes, this is something we are working on right now, and it will be released in the near future. Next, my coworker, Yue, will continue introducing the REST API to generate a report. Over to you, Yue.
Thanks, Kevin. In the next 10 minutes, I will give you some information about the survey report REST API. You may have already seen the report capability in Survey123 website. It allows you to turn your survey responses into richly formatted, printable documents. Behind the website, it is the Survey Report REST API that supports this capability. You can also use this API directly in your own scripts and apps. So, what can be done with the REST API for Survey Report? The REST API for Survey Report is hosted at survey123.arcgis.com/API/feature-report and consists of the following operations and resources. Quick reference, create sample template, check template syntax, estimate credits, create sample report, create report, jobs, and query jobs. You can go to the reference page to find more details for each resources. There are some commonly used parameters in Survey Report REST API. Feature layer URL, which is nearly required in every API endpoint. It defines the data source for the current report task. Survey item ID, an optional parameter, which means you can generate a report without creating a survey. You can just generate a report from feature service perspective. Query parameters, a JSON object whose value will be passed to the query option, which filters features or records to be printed. It is required for estimate credit, create report, and create sample report endpoint. Template item ID, the print template used in report task, which is uploaded to ArcGIS Online, and the type should be Microsoft Word. Token, the token to access all resources in the request. Portal URL, default is www.arcgis.com, defines the portal, which includes the print template item, survey item, web map item, and so on. The most common workflow to generate a report from the very beginning. The most common workflow to generate a report from the very beginning is like this. The first step is to prepare a report template. Firstly, you can get a sample template using the create sample template endpoint. It will return the binary file of generated sample template with field placeholders in it. The template would either include individual section, summary section, or both of them. The template content depends on the content type parameters you set. If you have no idea about the summary section and individual section, you can open a sample template and have a look. The content surrounded by summary tag is the summary section. It will only appear once in the generated report. And the content out of summary tag is individual section. It will appear multiple times according to the number of filtered records count. You could include many summary sections in the template, but only one individual section. Otherwise, Check Template Syntax API would throw an error. The second step is to customize the sample template. You can either refine the document style or modify the content. In this step, you would find Quick Reference page very useful. It shows many samples of report template syntax depending on the input feature layer and survey item info. This assists the template author to customize a report template. For example, you can get a checked or unchecked checkbox using the checked filter applying on multiple choice question. After modifying the template, you need to call Check Template Syntax API to verify it and correct invalid syntax. This API will also analyze the given template and return the individual or summary section count. With the template we prepared in step 1, we can move to the second step, Generate Report. Before generating the final report, there are 2 more things we need to do. The first one is to estimate credits. It will help you know the cost before the generating task. The credit cost is related to the template content and also the filtered record count. Also, it is recommended to preview the sample report before generating the final report. The Create Sample Report API would help. This API will generate a report which is very similar to the final report, but with only the first 3 records in your query, and it is PDF formatted. This operation does not consume credits, so it will help you to refine the template and save credits. With all these things done, we are going to generate the formal report now. We will use Create Report Submit Job endpoint to submit a report generation job and then retrieve the results. The response of this endpoint will include a job ID with which you can track this request. As you can see, it is an asynchronous operation. We need to check the status repeatedly until it finished. Then make a request at jobs/job ID to check the status of the job. It usually takes a few seconds or minutes to finish a report job. You may need to repeat the previous step until completed key presents in the returned job status JSON object. Once finished, the job will have a job status of Esri job succeeded, Esri job partial succeeded, or Esri job failed. If the job status is either Esri job succeeded or Esri job partial succeeded, you can then download the output files. Here is another API resource named as Query Jobs. It retrieves submitted jobs for a specified user. Only the latest 10 jobs of the user will be returned. Next, my colleague Jody will give you a demo on using Survey Report REST API with Python.
Thanks, Yue. Now let's see a demo of using the Survey123 REST API to generate reports. Here is the survey I'll be working on. Instead of using the report panel on Survey123 website, I will use the REST API to simulate the same behavior, which can then be easily automated and integrated with other workflows. This sample Python notebook will demonstrate ways you can use the Survey123 Report REST API, and will cover the following workflows of create sample template, generate the quick reference page, check template syntax, estimate credits, create sample report, and generate the final report. First, I will connect to my ArcGIS Online account and set some common parameters that will be reused later. including the report API base URL, which is pointing to the Survey123 beta environment, the target survey I want to work on, as well as the portal URL. You can set the portal URL to your public-facing enterprise portal if that's where your surveys were created in. Next, I will prepare my report template. I can use the Create Sample Template endpoint to get the sample template as the starting point. The sample template will include all question types in the survey and the default expression of each question type. But what if I want to use a different setting of a question? I can use the generate quick reference endpoint to generate the quick reference page. This page includes all supported expressions for all question types in this particular survey. You can use the quick reference page as a dictionary tailored for your survey. Now that I have updated my template based on the sample template created and the guides in quick reference page, I want to use it as the print template. I will use the check template syntax endpoint to make sure that my template is correct before I upload it to the ArcGIS Online. Here is an example of what will happen if I accidentally mistyped a question name in my template. The check syntax endpoint will fail with detailed information to help you to narrow down which part of the template caused the error. After fix the error in my template and get the successful result from the check syntax endpoint, I can use the add item action in ArcGIS Online. In ArcGIS REST API to upload the template to ArcGIS Online as an item and retrieve the item ID for later use. Now that I have my template ready, the next step is to generate the report. The report service will cost 0.5 credit for each full survey record printed. So if you're planning to batch print a large amount of records, you would want to check the credit consumption before printing. You can use the estimate credits endpoint to check how many credits will be charged for the printing job based on the query result and the template provided. Please note that for each summary section, it will only cost 0.5 credits, no matter how many records are involved in the calculation to get the aggregational result. You can check our documentation to get more information about the summary section. One last step before printing the final report is to generate the sample report, which is a watermarked PDF file of the final report. Because of the create sample report and create report endpoints are both asynchronous tasks, you need to use the submit job to run the task and retrieve job results. To do so, you need to first submit the report request using the create report and submit job endpoint. The response will include a job ID which you can track the request. Then make a request at jobs operation to check the status of the job. Once finished, the job will have a job status of Esri job succeeded, Esri job partial succeeded, or Esri job failed. Repeat the previous step at intervals of approximately 5 to 10 seconds until one of the identified job status value appears. If the job status is either Esri job succeeded or Esri job partial succeeded, you can then download the output files. Either a URL to the file will be presented in the result info property for each file, or an identifier which corresponds to the item ID of the file in ArcGIS Online. Here is the sample report PDF generated, and if you are happy of the look and feel, of the sample report, you can repeat the steps of submit job with create report endpoint here, and optionally provide the upload info so that the printed report will be uploaded to your ArcGIS Online account. Here is my final report I just created and uploaded using the report REST API. And I can download it from the item anytime. Okay, thanks for listening, and back to you and Calvin.
Thanks, Jen's demo. So let's summarize the features and limitation of Survey123 REST API. In this demo tutor, you already learned the different type of Survey123 API and some details about Survey123 REST API, especially for survey management and generating reports. For the survey management REST API, you can create a survey, share the survey, get surveys form, delete a survey, or encode URL parameters. As we mentioned earlier, the host URL is still on beta, and we are missing the publish endpoint. But we are working hard to make it in the production environment. Please follow us on GeoNet or Esri earlier program for the latest update. For Survey Report REST API, you can directly use this endpoint in the production environment, that is survey123.com/API. But something to note, we have a maximum 1,000 reports can be generated in a single report request. And if you are using the web map in the template, only the version after 2.0 is supported. Finally, Survey123 REST API is supporting ArcGIS Enterprise, but only for the enterprise, which is public facing and not use IAA, integrated Windows authentication. It is because our API server cannot access this ArcGIS Enterprise environment. But at the same time, we are working on the Survey123 local installer. You can install the whole Survey123 product, including website, web app, and API server in your local machine. So you can directly use this REST API endpoint in your local environment for survey management and generating reports. If you are interested in a local installer, please go to Esri earlier program for more detail. Thank you.